vote. It was, quote, a great day in D.C. That's how Donald J. Trump, billionaire, described his huddle with House Speaker Paul Ryan, RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, and other Republican leaders on Capitol Hill this morning in a series of meetings. Just in case you've not been glued to the tube all day, let me give you a quick recap of all the major developments. The press got there early before Trump's big three major meetings. First, Trump met with Ryan and Priebus, followed by a gathering of other House GOP leaders. Trump also spoke with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and Republicans in the upper chamber. Afterwards, Ryan and Trump released a joint statement that said in part, quote, while we were honest about our few differences, we recognize that there are also many important areas of common ground. We will be having additional discussions, but remain confident there's a great opportunity to unify our party and win this fall, and we are totally committed to working together to achieve that goal. Trump later tweeted, quote, great day in D.C. with that Speaker Ryan and Republican leadership, things working out really well, exclamation point, Trump 2016. This afternoon, Trump reportedly met with former Secretary of State James A. Baker, one of the GOP's iconic figures, and Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, who's been very anti-Trump, reportedly had a, quote, cordial phone call with Trump today. On the program here yesterday, you may recall Graham seemed to be warming to Trump, although he did repeat today that he's still not planning to vote for either Clinton or Trump. So, Nicolle Wallace, Republican strategist of long standing, what, if anything,
currently in the witness protection program?
Yeah. What, if anything, was accomplished today with Trump's visit, particularly the one with Paul Ryan?
You know, I know that we're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Speaker, and he's obviously a rising star in the Republican Party. He's revered by establishment figures, but also viewed as having a bright future by the grassroots of our party. But I'm more intrigued by the potential political opportunity of Donald Trump beginning to get a toehold on matters of national security with meetings like the one he had with Secretary Baker, who is revered and who really does hew closer to the Trump worldview of less is more of a realist than the idealism of George W. Bush. And I think that phone call with Lindsey Graham is very significant.
The fact that Graham took the call, they talked at length. There's no doubt that the focus on the Ryan meeting is important. We'll talk about it. But the fact that he had that meeting, I'll tell you another meeting he had that's gotten not that much notice. He met with Senate strategists to talk about what he could do to help them win. He met with Rob Portman, whose Ohio Senate seat is one of the biggest high-stakes things on the table this year. Trump is not a known figure to most of these folks. And the fact that he sat extended meetings, by all accounts, he listened a lot in these meetings. Paul Ryan said Trump was very gracious and personable. I think he did himself a lot of good, because what these men and women in the party want, someone they can trust.
That's right. That's right. So it leads us to our next part of our conversation. Why do you think, what is the political motivation? I know you were in the room. Why is Ryan so accommodating at this moment to Trump?
You know, I think that Ryan, I'm surprised at how far he went today. I mean, he really was tried to accentuate the positive in every moment at that press conference he had in the joint statement. You know, a bunch of Republicans endorsed Trump in the last couple days. Kevin McCarthy, the number 2 Republican in the House, Greg Walden, who heads the House Campaign Committee, a bunch of committee chairs. I don't think those endorsements leave Ryan any choice. He can't be anti-Trump. Even if Mitt Romney's anti-Trump, I don't think he has a choice. He's got to move towards consolidating. And I think Ryan realizes that now he realizes Trump can win, and he wants to have Trump as a partner in governing if he ends up as a speaker working with the Republican president.
And it's so interesting to me. I mean, Trump and Ryan are as different on policy as Ryan and Hillary Clinton might be. Maybe more.
Maybe they're more. In some big issues, maybe more.
They're diametrically opposed on policy, on trade, on foreign policy, on entitlement reform. Yep. I mean, you could go on and on. But I think that when you look back, you've written great books about it, when you look back at when things get done in Washington, it's when people reach across the partisan divide. This may be the rare instance where Republicans are doing the longer grab than you'd have to do to reach across party lines.
But they do agree on some stuff, including the bare bones.
I think they're grasping at straws, Mark. I'm talking about life in the Supreme Court. Those are like last-ditch
But they agree on the
efforts.
politics. They want Hillary Clinton to lose, and that is going to be the big unifying thing. All right. So both Donald Trump and Paul Ryan admit that despite the common ground they have found, they still, as Nicolle just said, have differences. So, Nicolle, you mentioned some of them. which of the big differences that you named will matter in the context of this election? Not if Trump wins and Ryan remains Speaker, but which of those differences do you think can't be papered over in the context of the campaign?
Listen, having worked in a White House, my gut tells me foreign policy, but having covered campaigns, and you've covered more than I have, it's the economy, right? I mean, so I think that finding some economic message, some pro-growth message that doesn't make Paul Ryan cringe every time he has to talk about Donald Trump's appetite for trade wars and his protectionism and his sort of isolationism on the economic front. I think those are the differences that are so fundamental if you go back and look at the public Paul Ryan record and the so far 9
Why couldn't Trump rewrite his tax plan
Trump
to make
can.
it more...
Trump can. I mean, Paul Ryan can't.
Right.
Paul Ryan
Well,
is sort of an ideological, economic, free market guy. He doesn't have a lot of room to control himself. But Trump's not wed, I don't think, to any of his policies.
I think they're going to have to just agree to disagree on immigration. On entitlement reform, I think Trump can move. If Ryan can basically convince Trump to say, we're going to preserve these programs for current beneficiaries, we'll preserve them for the next set of beneficiaries, but we're going to save them for future generations, I think Trump can make that switch. I think
for Trump, we'll be able to know more, I think, about his appetite for doing something that's very unpopular. His sort of comfort zone is doing what he thinks his economic populist base wants to hear, and they don't want to hear that they're going to get less when it comes to entitlements.
Well, but you can pretend it's not going to be less; it's just going to be different.
It's better.
The big thing to me is tax reform. That's what Ryan wants to do, and I think Trump can change his plan, and Ryan can be happy with it.
I think you're probably right about that. So, all this said, do you think that a Ryan endorsement is either imminent or probable, or?
I don't know exactly how he's going to do it. My hunch is, from talking to one of his advisors, is they don't want to make this a big deal. They don't want it to be like Paul Ryan.
Too bad, right?
Well, no, I mean he can sort of ease into it, like ease it into the hot water or the cold water. I think he went a long way today. It's inevitable now. I can't imagine that he can back down, particularly because so many of his colleagues in the House and Senate are getting on board with Trump. I think he will find a way to say, basically, I've watched Donald Trump, I've met him, I've gotten to know him. They're going to meet again, and I think I'm now comfortable with him that he'd be not just a better president than Hillary Clinton, but someone we can work with as conservatives to change the country. Trump was running against not just Washington before today, but against the Republican Party. Bill Clinton did the same thing in 1992, but after he got the nomination, he turned a little bit and ran more against both parties and the Washington culture. I think once he reaches that point, then I think Ryan will endorse him.
I think it's likely. I don't think it's imminent. I think that Ryan is such an intellectual force in the conservative movement. I think there's sort of an element of therapy on his part. I mean, you can see him hashing it out in full view of the cameras, grasping at issues like life and conservative principles, which is what we always say when we disagree with each other. But I think this is going to be harder than Ryan will make it look, and it speaks to his talent and maybe some flexibility that we didn't know he had.